Hello, we are Group 125, and today we will be informing you about animal extinctions and its different causes. To start us off, I'll be talking about the 5 mass extinctions throughout time. The following information comes from Khan Academy and the National Museum of Natural History. 440 million years ago, the Ordovician Silurian extinction occurred, wiping out small marine organisms. A major ice age occurred, causing a worldwide cooling. The first phase of the extinction was caused by the sudden drop in temperature throughout the world. The second phase occurred when the world started warming back up and created lots of confusion in the animals. The next mass extinction was the Devonian extinction 365 million years ago. This extinction was concentrated in tropical areas, specifically reefs and shallow seas, and killed off many tropical marine animals. This extinction is believed to be caused by cooling of the air by a decreased amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. The third mass extinction, the Permian-Triassic extinction, occurred 250 million years ago and caused the extinction of different types of vertebrates. It is estimated that 70% of vertebrates went extinct. Earth's climate warming up is said to be the cause of this. Next came the Triassic-Jurassic extinction, 210 million years ago, causing the extinction of even more vertebrates. This extinction allowed dinosaurs to rise up and develop. 2 aquatic groups that suffered the most were sponges and corals. The cause is believed to be the separation of Pangaea, which is the single landmass of the 7 modern-day continents. The separation caused many volcanoes, which introduced high levels of carbon dioxide, causing global warming and changes in the ocean. Finally, the Cretaceous-Tertiary extinction, which occurred 65 million years ago, which was the end of all dinosaurs except for birds. Without dinosaurs as predators, small mammals were given the opportunity to develop and take over. One theory of causation is that a meteor crashed and created a huge dust cloud that went up into the atmosphere and encircled the planet. Sam Noble Museum states, "The dust cloud greatly reduced the amount of sunlight reaching the Earth's surface and prevented photosynthesis by plants on land and plankton in the oceans. As plants and plankton died, extinctions expanded up the food chain, eliminating herbivores and carnivores. If that was not bad enough, dust and debris falling back to Earth was hot and may have triggered widespread wildfires." Now we're going to look at this short video that explains how extinctions occur in the first place.
According to the theory of evolution, individuals of the same species show a range of variations. Some individuals have characteristics that are better suited to their environment, making them more likely to survive and reproduce, whilst others are less well adapted. These less well adapted individuals may eventually fail to reproduce, and eventually their genes are removed from the population. If an entire species fails to adapt to changes in its environment or compete with other organisms for resources, and its birth rate is lower than its death rate, then it will become extinct.
Alrighty. So today, scientists agree that the extinction rate is thousands of times higher than the natural baseline. Judging from fossil records, the natural baseline of extinction rates is about 1 species per 1 million species per year, according to DoSomething.org. Scientists estimate that 150 to 200 species of plants, insects, birds, and mammals become extinct every 24 hours. Smithsonian anthropologist Dr. Torben Rick leads an effort to understand how human activity affects biodiversity by studying interactions between humans and other species. To quote the American Museum of Natural History, "Humans use thousands of the world's species in their daily lives for food, shelter, and medicine, but these natural resources are limited. People can take only so many fish from the sea or cut down so many acres of forest without permanently damaging the ecosystem, and threatening species. For many species, for many species, this overharvesting may cause total extinction. We will now be diving into the specific human impacts on animals and their extinctions. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Macy, and I'll be informing you about the impact of wildfires on animals. Wildfires are a global issue increasing more and more due to climate change. Summer heat, dry air, strong winds, and thousands of lightning strikes ignite and spread fires globally. Australia and California are just two of the places affected by these treacherous fires that burn down forests and rip through neighborhoods. As you guys know, California has been hurting, with more than 8,000 wildfires this year that have scorched 5,600 square miles, destroyed over 7,000 buildings, and killed 26 people. There are many concerns to be had regarding this issue. However, one that sticks out in my mind are the animals. Their homes are burning, habitats are destroyed, and so many are killed due to lack of speed or a good hiding spot. Species are hurting from these wildfires, therefore, it is vital that we as people know what's happening and know what we can do to maintain equilibrium in wildlife. Animals are directly affected by wildfires. Mammals, reptiles, birds, and frogs die in the flames or from loss of habitat. Heat can kill too, even organisms buried deep in the ground, such as fungi. A National Geographic article informed that Jane Smith, a mycologist with the U.S. Forest Service in Oregon, has measured temperatures as high as 1,292 degrees Fahrenheit beneath logs burning in a wildfire and 212 degrees Fahrenheit, a full 2 inches below the surface. In the Australian fires, koalas and wallabies, as well as bird, fish, and frog species, were among those needing the most help. Young and small animals are particularly at risk in any fire. During the peak of crisis in January, scientists had estimated that 1.25 billion animals have been killed in New South Wales and Victoria alone, according to a BBC News article. Also stated in that article, in February, the Australian government identified 113 animal species needing urgent help. In the California fires, a sanctuary for the endangered California condor was destroyed by fire, endangering the species even more. As CNN reported, in 1987, the last California condor was taken into captivity to join the 26 remaining condors in an attempt to bolster the population through a captive breeding program. Even fire-adapted species such as the black-backed woodpeckers are at risk since they need both burned and unburned habitat to thrive. With fires in the area, fish temporarily move away and die off, affecting the animals on land as well. Therefore, most species are impacted. However, in a more positive light, forest animals typically have some ability to escape the heat. Birds may fly away, mammals can run, and amphibians and other small creatures burrow into the ground, hide out in logs, or take cover under rocks. And other animals, including large ones like elk, will take refuge in streams or lakes. Fire seasons are growing longer, and fires are burning hotter, spreading faster, and lasting longer. More and more animals are suffering and dying every day. Now, you may be asking, what are people doing to help the cause? With one woman in California, she refused to leave any of her horses behind, so she abandoned her vehicle and hopped on the horses' backs to ride them to safety. She safely transported all 10 horses to the beach and returned to her vehicle with the flames only 100 yards away from her, according to a report by Daniel Wu from the Mercury News. Yet, since we all can't ride our horses to safety, there are many available animal emergency shelters and resources for evacuees in the western United States. For example, in Northern California, there are the Butte County Animal Shelters for small animals and the Durham Community Park for larger ones. The Red Rover organization's website is an informative place with a main goal of bringing animals from crisis to care. During these times, anything one can do to save an animal is heroic, whether it's a wild animal or your very own pet. Wildfires can ignite practically anywhere, which is why it's important to be informed and prepared. Animals are at the front lines of the issue, while most can't even fend for themselves. Their homes are burning, habitats are destroyed, and so many are killed due to lack of speed or a good hiding spot. Species are hurting from these wildfires, therefore it is vital that we as people know what's happening and know what we can do to maintain equilibrium in wildlife. Simply being informed and mindful will protect our wildlife, their habitat, and our planet. Thank you for listening.
Hi, I'm Emma, and today I will be explaining how poaching, illegal and overhunting, and commercial usage of animals has forced species towards extinction. The overhunting of bushmeat, which is a general term for any wild animal meat, has put nearly 300 species towards the threat of extinction. This is happening globally, but there is a higher risk in developing nations with underlying environmental and/or economic issues. According to the U.S. National Library for Medicine, only 2% of the mammals threatened by overhunting have populations considered to be stable or increasing. These heavily hunted mammal species have, on average, only 10.5% of their ranges within protected areas. The body size of a targeted mammal species has a direct correlation to its susceptibility to be hunted. The 1 to 10 kilogram mass group being the most hunted, and the 10 to 100 kilogram group ranked second, and so on and so forth. It's very important to note the key differences between hunting and poaching, legality being the biggest difference. Hunting is legal under proper licensing and is sustainable for the environment. Poaching is illegal, deals with private property, and targets animals with specific profitable body parts. Pressure for poaching is continuously increasing in private parks and reserves. The World Animal Foundation provides many excellent examples of animals affected by poaching in the wild. For example, tigers are in demand as exotic pets. There are around 5,000 tigers being kept as pets in the US, while only 3,000 remain in the wild. The sub-Saharan black rhinoceros is now almost extinct by extensive poaching as well. There are only 4,000 of these animals left in the wild, comparable to the 100,000 that roamed in the wild not even half a century ago. Rhino horns are crushed into powdered form for medicine value. Additionally, poached sharks, manta rays, sea cucumbers, and other water mammals are used by Asian consumers to make shark fin soup. Over 11,000 sharks are killed every hour of every day. The American black bear, one of the top 10 most endangered bears on the planet, is also poached. While 34 states have banned the trade of the black bear, poaching and legal hunting is killing almost 50,000 bears every year. The African Wildlife Foundation states that at the beginning of the 20th century, there were a few million African elephants and approximately 100,000 Asian elephants. Today, elephants are now considered endangered. There are about only 450,000 to 700,000 African elephants and 35,000 to 40,000 Asian elephants. Elephant ivory is extremely valuable and is used to make billiards balls, piano keys, identification chops, and many other items used for human entertainment. DoSomething.org also draws attention to the decline in the black rhino population. Their population has been down 97.6% since 1960. Their horns are once again believed to cure many diseases, such as cancer, but also can help hangovers and fever. These are just a few of the many cases which have been publicized, but similar cases of overexploitation of species due to profitable reasons are up in the thousands at this point in society. Conservation efforts and various laws banning the illegal trade of wildlife resources have had little success in stopping those involved in illegal wildlife trade. Good on You, an organization that helps preserve the environment, also notes how consumers have contributed to the mass killing of animals as well. Every year, large numbers of animals, including cattle, pigs, goats, sheep, crocodiles, snakes, stingrays, seals, emus, horses, and kangaroos, are killed for their skins for the leather industry. The main places this takes place are India and China. In developed nations, like Australia being one of the largest for this, animals are raised for their leather and do not have the same legal protection as pets, meaning they are harmed and are used in extremely painful procedures just to make leather. Wool also takes the animal welfare into consideration because the way that the flesh is the way that the wool is cut off the flesh is sometimes harmful to the animals as well. Similar to fur and skin and down feathers and silk, animals' safety and well-being in the wild is not taken into account.
Hi, my name is Shane Kelly, and I'll be talking to you about climate change and its role in extinction. So to start off, I have the immediate effects, as in what is currently going on now in the world. So currently there are 1 million endangered species and 750 billion tons of the ice caps melt each year so far, which can get worse over time because climate change is increasing per year. So it's only going to get worse if we don't make a change. There's also been habitat shifts, which has been really bad because it messes with the whole food chain as animals are forced out of where they normally live because of things like deforestation and like polar bears or penguins with the ice caps. So that's my next slide or my next topic. The food chain gets affected, which clearly only has one result, which kind of gets rid of, like the prey. So animals are dying easily from that. And I got these facts from CBS News, which is reported from the United Nations. So on the next slide, I'll be talking about the future. And according to the United Nations, we have 10 years to fix climate change, or else whatever damage we've done is permanent and there's no going back. So it'll only get worse and worse. And if you can see on the graph just how much it increased, it's like exponential increase, it only gets worse each year. So we really have to make a change. And it's been predicted that millions more species will be totally extinct within just the next few decades because of how bad it is, which causes a domino effect, which I got that from Flinders University, a scientist there, because like with one problem, everything's connected in the animal kingdom. So when one problem happens, it affects the next and the next and the next, which obviously just keeps getting worse. And as I said earlier, the climate change is increasing rapidly per year. So on the next slide, I have statistics, which I got from the scientists at skepticalscience.com. So apparently 83% of land area are controlled by humans out of all the land in the world, which has kind of directly, indirectly caused extinction to be 1,000 times higher. If you look at the graph from 1900 to, as it was last reported, 2018, it's 1,000 times higher. So also 42% of species in South Asia to be extinct by the year 2100, which is only 80 years from now. So 42% is an extremely large number. And 18 to 35% of the planet animal species will be hopeless by 2050, which is only 30 years. And by hopeless, I mean that like we can't help rebuild their population. They're kind of doomed to become extinct. Next, I have what we can do, which was all of these are listed by Dr. Adrian Rubin, who spent 35 years studying what we can do. So all of these are things you've heard before. Encourage and use renewable energy. We have electric cars, solar panels. Next is to recycle. That one kind of goes for itself. It's not that hard to just recycle your plastics. Conserve energy oil uses, meaning things such as turn the faucet off when you're brushing your teeth. Don't take too long showers. Put the lights off when you're not in a room. Carpool if you can. And there's also, you can volunteer. And by that, I mean, there's tons of pollution everywhere. And volunteering, you can help clean it up, which will save many animals' lives, whether it's in the ocean or on land. So next, there's a short video. I want it to be played from 40 seconds to 1:15 is what's most relevant in here to my topic. So what we get from that video is how like climate change affects the animals. So as he stated, they cannot adapt as well as we can to the changes that are happening to the planet, and we really need to try and help them out as we've caused the problems that they are suffering from. Next slide. So here are my sources, and I just want to say thank you for listening to my presentation, and in conclusion, we really do need to do everything we can to stop climate change. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Camille, and I will be speaking to you today about pollution affecting our oceans. Many sea animals' main source of communication is sound, especially as it gets darker the deeper you go into the ocean. When humans use seismic surveys and offshore drills, they usually use the same frequency sounds, which makes it harder for sea animals to communicate. These are the loudest sounds that we can make in the ocean and can be heard from thousands of miles away. According to an Encyclopedia Britannica article entitled Seismic Surveys, many marine animals panic and leave their feeding and breeding areas. Sperm whales eat way less during these seismic surveys, and bowhead whales try screaming to be heard over the sound. Some other effects of seismic surveys are that fish brains don't develop right, scallops turn into deformed adults, and it weakens some animals' immune systems. Some fish are so affected by this that they have to abandon their habitats and are forced to find another home, which is becoming increasingly difficult with the extinction of living and healthy coral reefs. Oil spills and runoff also negatively affect marine life. Conservation International studies have shown that big oil spills only account for 12% of the oil in our oceans, and almost 30% is due to runoff from roads, rivers, and drain pipes. Since the oil does not blend well with the water, it sits on the surface and becomes a thin, spread-out layer, blocking sunlight from reaching the ocean environments. Different types of oils tend to break down slowly, while others break down faster, but they are then deposited at the bottom of the ocean, further contaminating the underwater habitats. Unless there's an effort to clean up the oil, it will sit there expanding for miles and covering everything down to each grain of sand. Animals are poisoned by ingestion, either by directly swallowing the oil or through their gills, and oil can spread for thousands of miles, which means it affects many animals. It can also cake on the feathers of birds and weigh them down so that they can't fly, and as they try to clean it off with their beaks, they are ingesting the oil, causing even more harm to themselves. The biggest operation that leads to the most oil spills is offshore drilling. The Chesapeake Bay Foundation states in their article titled Offshore Drilling that there are often oil spills from platforms, pipelines, tankers, and coastal facilities, and they alone release 157,000 barrels of oil into the ocean each year. Along with that, they release toxic pollution into the air and water from transportation, drilling, and refining oil. They can also release volatile organic compounds along with greenhouse gases, which directly affects climate change. Even a small oil spill can devastate a whole crab population and poison oysters, fish, seabirds, and marine mammals. Not only can this affect animals, but it can devastate wetlands and beaches. Every year, there's 8 million metric tons of plastic being dumped into the ocean. Much of this debris forms into garbage patches. According to a recent study conducted by the Pew Research Center, the largest garbage patch, named the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, includes 1.8 trillion pieces of trash and covers the area According to a recent study conducted by the Pew Research Center, the largest garbage patch, named the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, includes 1.8 trillion pieces of trash and covers the area 2 times the size of Texas. Along with bigger pieces of garbage, microplastics have found their way into the food chain. These take 400 years to degrade and contaminate animals since it's so easy for them to consume through their gills. China and Indonesia alone contribute to 1/3 of the plastic pollution in our oceans each year. Along with that, 70% of our trash sits on the ocean floor, which means that we might not ever be able to clean it up. Synthetic microfibers are washed into our waterways with every single load of laundry, and they take up 85% of beach trash. And the trash on our beaches alone kills up to 1 million seabirds per year. Acidification has also been recently affecting sea life. Burning fossil fuels not only harms the air and the climate, but the oceans also absorb much of the carbon emissions, which leads to a change in the pH of the waters. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration states in their article titled, "What is Ocean Acidification?" that this series of chemical reactions results in the increased concentration of hydrogen ions and decreased carbon ions, which help the building of maintaining shells and other structures. The more acid in the oceans, the more difficult it is for corals to build their skeletal homes, along with clams, mussels, and sea urchins to build their protective shields. Since these high pH waters deteriorate the corals, it makes it harder for fish to find a suitable habitat and to defend themselves against predators. The International Union in Conservation of Nature already lists 455 critically endangered fish species.